A while back, before I began my YouTube adventure, I created this adorable little Easter bunny. Look at that smile. Isn't he cute? I often thought if I should make another bunny, but instead of an Easter bunny, how about an adorable little magic bunny? Well, what do you think? Okay, you talked me into it. Let's make a magic bunny today on Clayformations. Hello. As usual, we'll start with the base. I'll take this dowel and I'll draw a circle around it for when we drill a hole right there. And after that, we'll attach the flange to the bottom. Okay, let's take a trip out to the shop. Oops, I forgot to turn the camera off. Hey, where'd everybody go? Oh, there you are. Looks like I pushed the wrong button. It's a good thing I know where all the buttons are on the power tools. Now we can insert the dowel into the hole. And then we can do the hat and the brim and we're good to go. But before we continue, we have to put the flange on the bottom of the wooden base, turn it over and put the dowel back in. Then we'll put the flange on the galvanized pipe, and then we'll start covering the dowel with some aluminum foil. Round and round the aluminum foil goes, hoping that I don't make it too thick. And that should about do it for the foil. Now let's start adding some clay. What the? Hey, old guy, get out of the shot. My God, they'll let anybody on YouTube these days. So anyway, after that ghastly appearance, let's go ahead and continue with the bottom part of the hat. As you can probably tell, the top hat is going to be turned upside down and the magic bunny is going to be coming out the top. I mean, the bottom of the top hat. The bottom of the top hat, that's it, yeah. The bunny is going to be coming out of the bottom of the top hat that is upside down. Yeah. So let's just trim up the bottom and add a little bit of texture to this top hat before I confuse myself even more. Okay, now we'll make the hat brim. And if you've ever tried to sculpt a hat brim, you would know that they're not the easiest thing in the world to make. So I came up with this little Mickey Mouse contraption to give it the curve that I needed. Only trouble is, after it's baked, you can see that there's no real clean taper along the rim. So since the brim is baked and hard, I took it out to the shop and I ground the brim down to the shape that I wanted. And since the brim didn't have any type of armature in it, I was really nervous while I was using the grinder. I was certain that I was going to break it. But the gods of polymer clay showed me mercy and it didn't break. Now let's do a test fit. I think that fits pretty good. Now we'll blend the unbaked part of the hat onto the brim and then we'll add the hat band. Just remember, if you're having trouble sculpting something because it's not rigid enough, you can always pre-bake it and then add it to another piece without too much trouble. And with that, our top hat is complete. Now let's get on to the bunny. I'm going to have to cut this out of the wood for his mouth. That way I have enough room for the teeth and the gums and the tongue and all that other good stuff that's in our mouth. Full confession here, as you can see, the wire that's connected to the wooden egg is rather thin, so I'm going to have to reinforce it. This armature was meant for another sculpture I did called Pearl and Jade, and I needed a real thin wire. But I realized that the armature was too big, I wanted to make the fish a little smaller, so I put this one aside just in case I needed it for another sculpture, and lo and behold, I'm using it for the magic bunny. Never throw your armatures away, kids. You never know when you might be able to use it for something else. As you can see, this is an incredibly wonky way of adding arms to a sculpture, but his arms had to be in a particular pose, and I just needed to get the arms onto his body the quickest and easiest way that I could. What I kept telling myself during this entire process is that it doesn't have to look pretty, it only has to look correct. Now I'm going to show you a part of the process that unfortunately will not make it into the final sculpt. Well, on second thought, half of this part of the process will make it into the final sculpt. So I have to show you this so the rest of it will make sense a little bit later on. And in case you're wondering what they are, they're going to be hands. Now we'll drill a hole into the top hat and a little stopper at his bottom. Wait a minute, he doesn't have a bottom. Oh well, anyway. Now we'll go ahead and pose his fingers that will not make it into the final sculpt. I promise it's not a waste of time. Well, half of it's a waste of time, but not the whole thing is a waste of time. So only half, so that makes it okay. The first idea that I had He was going to be holding a magic wand in his right hand, and then something was going to be coming out of his left hand like magic. But the design just didn't look right, so I decided to scrap it and try something else, and you'll see what that is in just a few minutes. So as we put the final pieces of aluminum foil on the Magic Bunny, we'll go ahead and give him a coat of liquid Sculpey, and after we do that, we will place him in the oven to bake it, and that should give us a nice surface for the clay to stick to. Oh, gosh, doesn't this guy have anything better to do than mess up my videos? Maybe if I give him some money, he'll go away. Okay, anyway, back to what we're doing. As you can see, the liquid Sculpey has turned a little bit transparent and it has sort of a matte finish on it. I discovered this a while back, and what I found out is that the clay really adheres to the baked liquid Sculpey really well. Sometimes you'll put the super Sculpey on and it will slide or move while it's on the armature. With a layer of liquid Sculpey on it, it grips on to the polymer clay and you can move it with your thumb, blend it in, and it simply will not move. It really helps when you're blocking in that first layer of clay. Now we'll move forward with blocking out the head. Well, yeah, I think out of all the sculptures that I've done, this one gives a whole new meaning to the ugly phase. I think he looks like either Sloth from the Goonies or one of the cone heads with the mumps. I'm not sure which. And as all mature and sophisticated men must do, I found it apropos to do this. Bunny ears. Oh, come on, you were thinking about it too. You know what I did find interesting though is this particular part right here, which is called the muzzle. Most animals have that same type of look. They've got the muzzle and then they've got the nose on the top and then the whiskers come out. I found that kind of interesting. Now we'll add and refine his cute little nose, and then we'll move on to the jaw. Okay, from this point I have to create a jawline, and then I have to work my way from the inside to the out, because it would be virtually impossible to sculpt gums and the roof of the mouth with teeth in the way. I bet you're asking, how are we going to do it? Well, let me show you. So the first thing we'll do is we'll take some beige super Sculpey mixed with red flocking and create a gum line, the roof of his mouth, and the back of his throat. And right here you'll see that I'm adding a little bit too much to the left side there. You can see that right there, so what I'm going to have to do is trim that down a little bit, smooth it out, and create a nice little gum line for his cute little teeth to go into. I'd also like to point out here that you notice that I haven't added any detail to his face. I've only blocked it out, which is always an issue for me as I do these projects because I'm constantly having to think of what to do first, second, and third, and so on. Nothing is more frustrating when I find out that I've completely detailed out a certain part and then I realize, oh no, I've got to go back and add this to it, which messes up part 1 and 2. Okay, can anybody guess what I'm making here? Don't guess. No, just don't. But for those of you who guessed wrong, I'll tell you, it's a tongue. It's not totally necessary, but sometimes those little details make all the difference in the world. Okay, now we need something to go in the gum, so we'll start making some nice sharp teeth. After all, you can't be a magic bunny without some extremely sharp, wicked-looking teeth. When I made Happy Easter, you can see that I just gave him a big cheesy grin, and all the teeth were relatively the same size, and they were also occluded to where you couldn't see the inside of his mouth. But with the Magic Bunny, I wanted to have his mouth wide open, kind of going, ah, more performative and dynamic. I also wanted to make sure that the 2 front teeth were like a real rabbit's front teeth, but a little more dangerous, as you'll see right here. I wanted those things to be big and sharp and right in the middle, just like a rabbit. But this rabbit probably eats a lot more than just carrots. In fact, I would say that this particular Magic Bunny can do some real shredding. So now that we've got the 2 front teeth oriented, we'll go ahead and add the bottom 2 teeth, and then we'll go ahead and mark out all the places where the rest of the teeth go. I used to just take the pre-baked teeth and just force them into the gum line. What I realized is that when I do that, it would displace too much of the gum line, so I take my ball stylus now and make a socket for the tooth to go in. That way they go in much easier and there's less chance of you distorting the gum line or anything else that you've blocked in up to that point. Okay, that's about as far as I want to go with the teeth right now, because now we need to focus on the eyes. I made a joke. Get it? Focus. Eyes? Huh? Good? Oh, never mind. I know, I'm a sculptor, not a comedian. So after I've covered the wooden ball with some Fimo translucent clay, I'll make a divot for the iris. Then we'll mark in some texture for the iris, and then you end up with this. Not too bad so far. Now we'll add some color to the iris. I went with the color red because it seemed apropos for a crazed magical bunny. Now we'll take 2 small pieces of black clay and we'll add it to the middle of the iris. Now we'll flatten it out and blend it into the texture of the iris. And there you have it, one magic bunny eye. And I made a second eye off camera, and now we can add them to the eye sockets. And I'd like to explain why I make my eyes this particular way. The main reason is eyeline. I used to put my eyes in blank, and then after the sculpture was baked and completed, I would go ahead and paint the eyes on. One way or another, they always ended up looking like one eye was looking down or one eye was looking up or both eyes were cross-eyed. I could never get the eye line right. Doing it this way, I can adjust the eyes to where they're both looking in the same direction and I don't have the wonky eye problem. Okay, now that I have the eyes blocked in, I can start working on the gums and the gum line on the teeth. Basically what I'm doing is I'm working from the inside out and then from the front to the back. This way I can sort of cradle the back of his head while I work on the details on the gums. And what those details are is what I call a root ridge, where you can see where the root would be under the gums, then defining and cleaning the gum line, then adding texture with the ball stylus. The gum line was protruding a little bit more than I wanted, so I had to add a little bit more lip on the lower jaw. Then we'll clean up the lip line between the gum and the lip, and we'll add a little bit more texture to the lower gums, clean up the gum line, and with the teeth and gums complete, now we can move on to the details on the face. Although this is one of my favorite parts of the sculpture, doing all the details, it literally takes me hours to work on all these details, all these little wrinkles and folds of the skin. And what I'm doing is I'm just barely touching these things, just doing a little nudge, a little push, a little swipe of the tool. And there's not really much going on. That's the reason why I kind of speed up this footage a little bit. Video editing is akin to trying to find a needle in a haystack, trying to find those diamonds in the rough. Okay, I've gone as far as I can with the details on the face. Now I have to start thinking about how we're going to cover this guy in fur. So I'm going to use my extruder and make some delicious polymer clay spaghetti. But really it's just going to be polymer clay rabbit fur. I won't tell anyone if you won't. I don't know if you can see it here, but on the back of the rabbit's body, I did a test by etching the fur into what I had already put on the armature, but it didn't quite look right. It looked too thin. So by extruding out the clay and then laying each spaghetti noodle out on his body, I could create a flow and a pattern that looked more like real natural hair. And here I'll show you the whole process. What I do is I lay out each clay noodle in a pattern that I would like the hair to go. I wanted it to go from the top of the neck, go to the broad part of his shoulders, and then down and taper into his lower body. And then it's just a matter of going through with your tools and pushing and shaping the clay into hair strands, starting with larger sections of hair, and then what you do is you start to create smaller strands by using loop tools and brushes, and then with much patience and maybe a couple of 100 hours later, you end up with something that resembles hair. Okay, that's satisfactory. Now with the back done, we need to turn it around and start on the front. Oh no, wait, stop right there. We are not going to show this whole process again. Okay, that's a little better. Now how about a little more? Not bad, but I think we can do better. Let's move on. So there you go, my friends, one fine looking chest of hair. But you know, there's something missing. Of course, how could I forget? You can't be the perfect magic bunny without an awesome looking goatee. So we'll just add a couple of magical spaghetti noodles, and before you know it, you've got one magical looking goatee. Now let's give this guy a wicked looking brow. Not an angry looking brow, but a crazy brow where he's looking at his magical powers and going, ha 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 ha. He needs just a little bit more in the middle there. Now from the brow, we'll go up the middle of his head and then continue on down to his back and blend it into his neck. Okay, you see all that hair extending out of his cheek? I'm going to show you how I did it. I wanted his cheeks to look kind of full and the hair kind of sticking out as he smiled. And it's difficult to do without an armature. So working from the bottom of the cheek up to where the hairs stick out, you create an illusion of hairs that are sticking out, but yet they are still connected to the main body of the cheek. And then you just have 2 or 3 strands, giving the illusion of all the hairs sticking out and being disheveled and natural. Okay, I don't know about you guys, but I am really tired of sculpting hair. It's monotonous and it's boring and I've had enough, so let's move on. Remember earlier in the video when I said that this hand design was not going to be making it into the final sculpture? Well, this hand design has got to go. I thought the long, clawed, gnarled hand was kind of cool looking, but after a while it just didn't really fit. Lucky for us though, we don't have to start at the beginning. All we have to do is make a few minor adjustments to the armature and hopefully come up with a more interesting design that matches the aesthetic that we're looking for. So we'll give him a couple of fluffy rabbit paws with claws sticking out just to give it a little more magical pizzazz. We'll go ahead and block them out with the polymer clay, do a size check. That looks pretty good. After the size of the hand is checked out, we'll go ahead and shape out the paw with 3 little fingers. I guess they're called fingers, I'm not sure. And a thumb. Do rabbits have thumbs? I don't think rabbits have thumbs, but you know, we'll take a little bit of artistic license. Okay, now we'll add some claws. And hey, no flying birds around here. Let's get rid of that. That's more like it. Now, I thought we were done, but unfortunately, we've got to finish the paws by sculpting more hair. I really apologize. I won't torture you guys long with this, so we'll just finish this up real quick and then we'll move on to attaching the paws to his arms. And after we attach the hands with super glue, we'll go ahead and add some Epoxy Sculpt for strength. And then we'll go ahead and cover them with the polymer clay, and then we'll blend them into the arms. And I will not be showing you any more fur sculptures today, but there is one thing that we have to do. These claws are a little too small, so I'm gonna pull them out. Ow. Why does this feel like it hurts? I feel kind of bad. Sorry, Magic Bunny. Not to worry, we're gonna give you a manicure that's gonna blow you away. We're gonna make him a new set of proper magical claws. The truth is, guys, I just had those smaller claws laying around and I was too lazy to make a new set of claws. I should really know better than that and just do it right the first time. Yeah, that looks much better. Okay, now we can finally start making this guy look like an actual rabbit by making his ears. First, we'll start out with some wire to create an outside frame. We just fold a long piece of wire over, twist the ends, and crimp the tip. Then we'll check to see if the scale is right. I think that looks pretty good. Now we'll have to put something between the ear frame. And praise be to God for the aluminum foil tape. Just the right thing for this job. We take the ear frame, place it on the sticky part, fold it over, seal it together, and then cut just along the outside of the wire frame. Then you can pretty much bend them into whatever shape you want, and you have yourself 2 rabbit ear armatures. Now we can put some clay on them. The first ear I did here, I didn't really do it quite right. I put both sides of clay on at once, which really made it difficult to cut along the edge of the ear because it was so thick. But the second one worked out a little bit better and a little bit easier, and I'll show you how I do that right now. This time I just put clay on one side, then cut around the edges. Then I put the second half in the front, turned it around, cut it along the sides, and it was a lot easier to cut and shape. Now, I understand that I promised that I would not be showing you any more fur sculpting today, but I'm going to have to break that promise because I feel that I should show you how I did at least one of the ears. So if you can indulge me and also forgive me, here are the sculpting details of the one magic bunny ear. And using that same magic, I will create a second bunny ear. Pretty impressive, huh? Well, if you think that's awesome, wait till you see this. Before we bake this guy, there's just a few things I need to do. I need to make a hole for the magic wand and some holes for his whiskers and a hole for something that's going to be coming out of his hand in the future. And then we can take these babies off to the oven for a good baking. Okay, so while the bunny and his ears are baking, let's go ahead and paint the top hat black, trim the hat band blue, and paint the base magic red. At least I think it's magic red, except it doesn't make the black disappear. I'll have to do a couple of more coats on that. And then we'll take some Fimo translucent Sculpey and make him some whiskers so we can put those on later. Okay, the magic bunny is all baked and cooled down, so let's go ahead and make him a cool looking magic wand. Now this video is getting a little long, so let's use some of that magic. Sweet. Now let's go ahead and give this magic wand a paint job that would make Harry Potter jealous. Well, I don't think it would be as cool as Harry Potter's magic wand, but we did our best. Now we'll put some super glue in the holes we made earlier and attach his ears. Now at the base of his ears, I'm going to reinforce them with some epoxy sculpt just to make sure we've got enough strength to hold them up. Then after it's cured, I'll take some super Sculpey and blend them into the ears and into his head. I'm really glad that super Sculpey blends so well into pre-baked clay. I don't like to do it very often because the heat gun isn't the best way to cure polymer clay, like the Magic Bunny here, but if your piece is too big, it's a great alternative. Okay, it looks like it's about time to put some paint on this guy. And I would love to be able to give you some wonderful philosophical techniques and tricks on how to apply paint to a sculpture, but the only thing I can tell you is just put the paint on there and be careful that you don't break anything. Until you get right here, where you have to slow down and be real careful that you don't get paint on anything else like the eyes or the gums. So the only incredible, sublime, philosophical thing I can tell you is just slow down and take it nice and slow and easy around these parts. No, wait, that's a terrible color. Let's try something else. That's better. I think I may have to go back to school and learn color theory again. But hey, at least I got his nose right. I knows how the nose is supposed to be painted. Oh God, it's terrible. Anyways, looking at this now, it's kind of funny the way I defaulted to the Bugs Bunny look with the gray and white. That was totally unintentional. I think my original design idea was just to paint him completely white. I think maybe because white has so little contrast that I needed something to bring out the texture of the hair, and I went with the gray. Who knows, through the whole process of my sculptures I go back and forth and change my mind a lot. Now for the scary part of taking some UV resin and completing his pupils, and I really did like the way it turned out, although it is scary doing it because you only have one chance. Then we'll give his teeth and eyes a shine with some high gloss varnish, and not forgetting to give his nose a little bit of a shine too. Then we'll add some cute little whiskers to the holes that we made earlier in the video. Now this is the part of the sculpture that I had no idea how I was going to accomplish it. What I wanted to create was an explosion of magic cards coming out of his hand by way of his magic wand over on the other side. The first hurdle I had to get over was finding some magic cards that were the same scale as the sculpture, and I searched Amazon and found these neat little cards right here. So after I removed all the cards from their cardboard prison, I took my hot glue gun and attached every single card to the spiral wire. So after about an hour of stringy hot glue and several swear words and several burnt fingers later, I have a nice magic card whirlpool. Then I'll take some cotton roving and pull it apart, pull the cotton roving through the middle of the magic card tornado to make it look like magic smoke billowing through the inside. And about halfway through, I was questioning that decision because it wasn't easy to get that stuff inside. Now we'll take some Mosu black and paint the inside of the hat to give it a little more depth. Now we'll take the magic bunny and attach him to his magic hat. And you know, since I didn't torture myself enough with the cotton roving, I decided I would add some more at the bottom of the hat. I guess I just like to torture myself that way. Now we'll add his magic wand. After all, you can't do any magic without that. And last but not least, we will add the magic card tornado to the bunny's hand. And let's see how this magic bunny turned out. Hey everybody, that about wraps it up for another video, and I really appreciate you watching it to the end. If you enjoyed the video and you think I deserve it, give this video a thumbs up. If you want to see more, please consider subscribing. And to all of my subscribers, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you. Your support and encouragement is pure magic to me. Everybody take care, and we'll see you next time.